Well, welcome to another edition of My Harlow My Life, and I'm really pleased to say that joining me today is the one and only Mr. Layne Eadie.
Afternoon. Yeah, very well, thank you.
Good. I suppose the first question, is how's the lockdown been? You've been dealing with a lockdown.
It's been different, let's be honest. Very, very strange. I mean, I've been quite fortunate. I've been able to work from home. I think I'm in week 13 now. So I had DIY haircuts, had the lot, everything you could probably imagine. Obviously, family now. So it's been a little bit stressful, but a bit of cabin fever here and there. But we've managed to keep ourselves sort of active in terms of going for walks with the dog and keeping myself fit, going for runs and stuff. So it's actually gone quite quick.
I mean, it came out of the blue though, didn't it? All of a sudden, 1 minute we're going along nicely, and all of a sudden, then bang.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, we get because the job I'm in, we get sort of government-led emails, if you like, not from very high up at all, sort of councils and that sort of stuff. And there was a couple of warnings, but it was never anything that we expected like this. And I think when you sort of started seeing Italy and foreign countries doing it, I do think it was only a matter of time. But yeah, it's been different. It's probably the word to use.
Yeah, well, I've of course been in a supermarket manager. I've been in every single day, so it's just been a really scary time for everybody involved. But it was an interesting time, to say the least. But I suppose first question for you. I mean, whereabouts did you first start football at this sort of level? I mean, what was the first club? Was that Potter's Bar, or was it?
No, I've never played for Potter's Bar. Okay. Strange. Yeah, my first club was when I was 15. Mm-hmm. I went to Barton Rovers, who are just a small little club outside of Luton. Mum and Dad used to take me all the time. Obviously, I couldn't drive or anything, but fortunately, that they could get me to and from training and that. And then the manager from Barton Rovers had a connection. It was 11 years ago, so I can't remember how the connection was, but I ended up at St Albans. And then, from St Albans, I went out on loan to St Neots, and then back to St Albans again, and then come to Harlow.
So what year was it that you actually did come to Harlow? Can you remember?
I want to say 2012, 13 maybe.
Was that the Whittam year?
Yes. Yeah. I must have been. It was early on in the season, maybe August, September. The season had already started. Because I remember the day I signed, I come and watched. I can't remember who we played, but this season maybe 3 or 4 games in.
So can you remember? What was your first thoughts then when you came in to see a game? Can you remember what the score was of that game that you was watching?
Honestly, no. Literally, all I remember was, to be honest, and it's probably quite egotistical of myself, but I just remember watching the left back the whole time. Just didn't really pay too much. Again, I was young. I must have been 18, 19, something like that. So a little bit full of it, come from St Albans, that sort of stuff, but also wanted to just play football, and I wanted to know what I was up against. So I must have spent probably 80% of the game watching the left back, seeing what he could do, seeing what he was about. Also seeing what the league was like as well, because I'd never played at this level. It was always sort of the one above. So to drop down, I needed it. It gave me that grounding, gave me the humbling of, okay, these are men, and they're juggling 2 or 3 different jobs, maybe a family, etc., etc. Whereas sort of the league above, you get ex-pros, you get people from academies, you get obviously people that still work and have jobs and families and stuff, but there's a lot more professionalism about it. Whereas sort of the Ryman North is very workmanlike, and it's that people still take it seriously, and there's still good players out there and still good teams there, but it's very grounding for people to go there, certainly at a young age.
So I mean, when you come in then, I mean, can you remember who was playing for Harlow at the time, playing wise? Was it Danny Brown and people like that?
So goalkeeper was James May, I believe.
Yeah.
Donny at right back. Blewett played. Can't remember the other centre half for the life of me. Darren, I think it was another Darren actually. I can't remember his last name. I think he ended up at Ware. Brownie played. Robbie Martin was there. Shane Stamp was there. Leon Anton was there, I believe, as well. Reedy was there. Dadson must have been there. I can't remember many more.
What was said to you for you to come over to Harlow? What was the sell from Danny for you to come in?
I tell a lie, actually. The goalkeeper was my best mate at the time. That's how I got to Harlow. He knew I was getting frustrated at St Albans, and he said, "Look, I'll have a chat with Danny." Danny, I don't think it was Danny. I think it was Paul. I think it was Westy that phoned me, the assistant, and he said, "Look, just come down to training and see what you think." So I went down to training on Thursday night, and I just remember that Danny didn't say a word to me to start off with. Literally, as if I weren't there, just walked past me. I was like, well, it's a bit strange, but hey, that non-league football can be like that. We trained, must have been about 9 o'clock, and he pulled me into his office and said, "Look, I love you. I want you to sign. Can you sign?" He offered me a deal, and to be fair, it was done there and then. But obviously we didn't have the papers and stuff like that, so I had to wait till the Saturday to get signed. But I just remember this. Obviously, I was still really young, I was still really naive in my football days, but he had a presence and he commanded the dressing room and he commanded training, and I loved it, to be honest. It's what I needed. It allowed me to mature really quickly.
Can I just ask you to tip your camera up a little bit, because I'm losing you at the bottom of the screen? That's better. Spot on, mate.
Is that better?
Yeah, better. Time, mate. So, I mean, literally with it though, I mean, so going into your first game, did you play the next game on then from signing, or was you on the bench? Or
yeah, no, I think I went straight into the team.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. I think I went straight into the team, to be fair. Again, I think it was Romford at home. Yeah, Romford at home. I remember the game. Now we won 2-0, 3-1, something. I don't know. Yeah, I think it was 2-0. It was 2-0. Tuesday night. Just remember. Yeah, it was a muggy night, so it must have been still in late August. Yeah, I to be honest, I didn't expect to play. First game, first time signed. You know, unless you're a sort of a marquee sign, and if you like, you don't generally walk into the team. I wouldn't say, unless injuries, suspensions, etc. So I didn't expect to play. So when he sort of named the team, I was a bit shocked, but I just knew it was my chance to prove myself to myself and how good I am, and how good I can be. And it's obviously the first time that the players and my teammates would have seen me play, other than that sort of very short training session that we had on the Thursday night. So it was a chance for me to show what I can do for them and what I can do for Danny as well.
So what was it like when? How long had you been playing before the fans started giving you your own song?
To be honest, I think it must have been a couple of months. I honestly don't know. That's probably a question for Buddha.
Yeah.
I just remember turning up on a Saturday and just zoned out, because normally you pay attention, obviously, but you don't necessarily hear every word or hear every song because you're so invested in the game. But I just remember the game must have been paused, it must have been stopped, it must have gone out for a throw in, and I just hear it and I was like, wow, they're singing for me. It was a bit surreal, never had that before. I loved it. It actually inspired me to try and play better, try and be better, try and be busier, have more energy, etc. Because that's what the song was about at the end of the day, wasn't it? So to answer an original question, I don't know, a couple of weeks, months, maybe 6 weeks, something like that.
Well, Reece, I was having a quick look down because someone sent in a question for you, and literally as we're talking about the fans, it was one of the fans has sent in and said, and we'll go into it a bit more detail when we get that far in, but they wanted to know, what was your best goal? Was it Bury away? Was it Worthing at home, or was it the Hornchurch one in the final?
Wow, all special for different reasons, very different reasons. If we go through them, the Bury one was extremely important. It was away on a Tuesday night. I think it was after about 5 minutes, maybe not even that. Honestly, I don't know the time. I know it was very early on in the game. I think Bury were in the playoffs at the time as well, or just outside. So it was always going to be a tough game away on a Tuesday night. Just a bit of a slog up there as well. And I think they was in form as well. I always remember going up there, and it was almost, when we got into the change room, it was made as if it was this could make or break our season. This could mean we get into the playoffs, or we win the league, kind of thing, or we have another shot at winning the league. So I think it was who won the league that year. It might have been Sudbury. And I think there was only sort of 2 or 3 points ahead of us at that time. So we needed to win, and so it was important for that to settle the nerves down. It was very early on. Probably one of the best goals I've scored, obviously, but there was a lot more to it than that. The Hornchurch goal was probably the best for the most important. It was most important in my career, most important in probably Harlow's recent sort of existence, if you like. So the last 10 years, last decade, probably the most important. It didn't win us the game, because we would have won if we didn't concede another goal, we'd have won 2-1. But I also think that if I didn't score that goal, I mean, I just distinctly remember they was on top at the time, that they was pushing. So who knows what happens? It's a final. We were 2-1 up.
Which is completely knocked the stuffing out of them, didn't it? As they say.
Yeah, massively. And there's a picture someone sent to me shortly after, and it was me celebrating, and you could just tell that all the Hornchurch around, because there was obviously me in frame, and then all the Hornchurch players around out of frame, but they was all on their haunches, all sort of head in hands kind of thing. You just knew that was it. We'd won the game. The Worthing goal
got you a TV appearance.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, that hit different levels. I think technically that was the best goal I've scored, for sort of pure out and out technical skill, if you like. Importance, probably not important. I think we were 5-1 up at the time. So obviously not that important. Yeah, I do think it probably has to be between Hornchurch and Worthing.
Well, the Worthing goal, and the story behind the Worthing, I don't know if you know how it got to there, but the Worthing goal got there because I managed, when I was filming the games, I was filming them on my phone.
Yeah.
And I just thought I actually got it, perfect. So I actually sent it to Soccer AM, not expecting anything to actually come of it. And then all of a sudden, someone says to me, "You need to go back onto Sky and have a look." He said, because they played it yesterday. Because it's not, so I went back on. I've still got it on my planner.
Yeah.
It was actually...
No, I've still got it recorded. Yeah, it comes up on my. Cause I have an app on my phone. It gives you like memories and stuff. It comes up every once a year as well. And I distinctly remember I can't remember the comedian's name.
It was a guy from me.
Omar.
Yeah,
Jelly or something.
Yeah. And he's like, I just watched it earlier on today. It was like, I can't think he's
Patrice Evra, I think he said, didn't he?
Yeah. Ray Parler was on there, and
yeah. So Danny phoned me on the Friday and said, "Oh, you need to watch Soccer AM in the morning." I was like, "What? Like, I've got a game tomorrow. That's a bit weird." And he said, "No. Your goal from last week is going to be on it." I was like, "Wow, that hit a different level with me. I've never been on since I joined Harlow. I've been on more TV programs than sort of I've ever even probably watched. To be honest, it's
BBC News as well when it was Sonko as well.
Yeah. And then we done what was it, a Celebrity Taxi with Louis Spence or something like that. There's been a few weird scenarios when I've turned up to training and there's like Louis Spence in the change room doing splits, and I'm like, what is going on?
Not your normal.
No, not at all. I'm expecting like to come in and, don't get me wrong, that was that was the most extreme, surreal experience I've ever had in football in my life. Louis Spence coming into training and with Joe Benjamin, I was like, you just would never put them two in a room together. But it was probably one of the funniest things I've ever done in my life.
Brilliant stuff. It was. I mean, you go back to that Whittam season. Then, I mean, you've come in. It starts to go pretty well. I mean, is there any sort of highlights for you in that sort of at the early stages that sort of sticks out for you, either dressing room wise, travelling to games, or anything?
Not really. I think the whole season was one that just changed the whole dynamics of the way I played football. I mean, there were some real men in that team, sort of complete competitors. From Blewett, Brownie, older, wiser heads. Even the players we brought in, I think Fabs joined that season. It was just a team of men in the end.
Learn from those people. Of course, you know, Darren Blewett had played sort of West Ham sort of thing. You'd also got, of course, Brownie as well, who's, you know, as I said to him, he's somebody you wouldn't want to see in a light alley, let alone a dark alley. You know. So what sort of stuff did a young Layne Eadie sort of learn from playing alongside people like that?
Just how to win, just to be a complete winner. There's times in games where, through my youth and my younger before Harlow football days, it was very sort of what you see in academies now. It was very, don't boot it, pass it, control the ball, don't head it, don't ever kick it off the pitch, that kind of thing. When I joined Harlow, it was very, I don't know, if it's the 96th minute and we're 1-0 up and you've got the ball in our corner flag or in our box, you boot it as far away as possible. Or if, I don't know, if it's there to be turned around and someone's through on goal, do it. Don't pass it 5 yards. If the 50-50 is there to be made, do it, kind of thing. It was all about presence, I think, with certainly that year. And to be fair, even the subsequent years after that, it was very much about when people come to Harlow or when they played Harlow, it was going to be physical. It was going to be a battle. It was going to be a very, very tough game for anyone who played us. But at the same time, when we wanted to play, we could, which made us a very, very good side for years.
I mean, up to that point, had you actually been in been in the away dressing room against Harlow up to that sort of stage?
Never. No, I never played in that league. I never played. I think the closest I come to it was an FA Cup game against Thurrock when I was at St Albans, and there was always a bit of bitterness with them two clubs as well. But it was a completely different level at Harlow. To this day, I don't know what went on. I don't know what happened, but someone must have annoyed someone. And
do you not know what the story is behind that then?
No, honestly, I have no idea.
But the story behind the battle between the two clubs was the fact that there was a gun. I don't know if it was in your time. It might have been just in your. It could have been in that season. Actually, I'm not sure. And basically, what had happened was there was a player going to come and play for Harlow. And Ray Dye had done all of his research, etc. And I think just before the team sheets were going to go in, Ray realised that the guy had been died, and he'd played for Thurrock that year, and he'd played for Tilbury that year as well. And basically what happened was they stopped him from playing. They then went back and, I don't know if they reported it or they did something. And basically it meant that that both clubs, Tilbury and Thurrock, were docked points. Now, this is what I've heard. I mean, they were docked points, which then meant that Thurrock got relegated. And they got into our league. And I think it was a case of the last game of the season, they put their kids out or something instead of putting their full team out. If they'd put got a point, they would have stayed up, etc. And that was where the bad blood had come from.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that must have been before me.
That's where it all came together. But going in that season, then as it was going on and on and on. I mean, the fight at the top of the table was VCD against Whittam. It was them two, going for the title realistically, even up to the very, very last day. I mean, but can you remember the fight? And was it getting was the atmosphere getting better and better inside the Harlow dressing room as you were leading up to the end of the season because you thought you might get the playoff?
Yeah, because I think from memory, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we were in the playoffs all that often. I think we were just outside it for quite a long period of the season, and we just managed to sneak in. I say sneak in, we just managed, I think, maybe even the last game of the season, we had to win to confirm playoffs.
I think we finished 4th that season, if I remember rightly.
Right.
Sure. That.
Yeah, because didn't we play? Was it at the Haybridge year? Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we played Haybridge away, obviously, didn't we? And I think we played them. Speaking of Haybridge, I think we played them about 4 weeks before the end of the season as well, and I think we got turned over.
Yeah. So we played them.
I think we lost like 5-3 or something.
Right. So we played them 3 times that season.
And
in that season that we played them 3 times, we lost every single one. So we lost
the
FA Cup home and away. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always remember I went to work the morning and someone at work said, "Oh, it's your semi-final tonight, isn't it?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, it is." And he said, "How do you feel?" We just had a chat about it. "How do you feel you're going to get on?" And I was like, "Honestly, I think we're going to beat them tonight because we've lost to them 3 times this season." And he was like, "Oh, you ain't going to beat them then." I was like, "No, it's all about mentality." To be honest with you, and I've seen clips from yourself with Jody Brown and Buddha saying that they lost the game in the tunnel before the game. I think it was even before then. I think it was probably when they found out that we were going to play them because they'd beaten us 3 times. And it's very strange. It's very hard to get yourself up properly for a game where you've beaten a team 3 times that year and probably convincingly beaten them or deservedly beaten them 3 times that year. So I just think it was probably then where
Brownie actually said to me that he felt they lost it in the dressing room.
Right.
So I mean, you'll see he's been released tonight, but he said that he was, and you can say if this was true or not. He was there banging on their door, on all their door and all the rest.
It was like I said to you earlier. I was very new to all of this, sort of the mind games and the old school way of winning football matches up here in your head. And I can't remember whether it was when we went out for the warm up or when we come back in for the warm up. A couple of lads, I think Blewett was one of them. Danny Brown was obviously the other one. Just as they walked past, just give it a little smack. I said a little smack. It was a very, very. It probably could have knocked the door open, but. Yeah. And I just don't think they expected it. I don't think it seemed like the animal that they played during the season wasn't the same animal we were that night. And I looked around. I always remember I looked around that dressing room when I arrived there, and there was only a sort of a handful of us in the dressing room at a time because I was always one for being early. But I just remember looking around at the boys that were in there, and we weren't going to lose that game. There was no way. I could see the concentration, the focus. It was normally before games, we'd have a little bit of banter, we'd talk, we'd socialise. I don't know, what are you doing tonight? What are you doing at the weekend? Did you watch that? Did you watch this game? Did you watch that game? Nothing. It was just the music was on. It was you had the odd conversation, obviously, and the odd bit of banter, but it was very focused. It was very, very the mindset was on the game. It weren't about anything else. It was, look, we're here to win. We're going to win. We're not taking anything less. And to be honest, I knew then as well. It sort of reconfirmed it for me. Obviously, you always have nerves. It's semi-final at the end of the day, but I think we all used the nerves to. We battered them, didn't we? Let's be honest.
But I mean, that night as well. Was there a little bit of like, let's win this game for Brownie, because of course he'd done his leg at that stage. He wasn't able to play anymore. That's been done and dusted. And
yeah, I mean, there always is. I think no matter what team you go into, if someone gets injured and you're in a playoffs, it's always, and it was, look, Brownie's injury was serious. It was quite an awkward one as well from memory. I think it was a tackle when he won the ball, but his knee got caught in the Astro at home. I think he done it at home. So yeah, there's always, and we were an extremely close bunch of lads. Wouldn't say there was anyone that was alienated, or there weren't any cliques. There weren't any. It got on, is what I'm trying to say. And so there's always going to be that where the element of, look, let's do it for Brownie as well as ourselves. I mean, he's lost to them 3 times this year. Let's try and at least make it up a little bit.
So what was it like? Games finished. Go back into the dressing room. I mean, Junior said what his feelings were, and so was Brownie. But I mean, yourself, what was that like going back into?
I was ecstatic. I think we stayed on the pitch for a couple of minutes after because all of the fans were. It was probably one of the best atmospheres I've ever been at. It was non-stop. Even when we got into the dressing room, I remember that I could hear them still, whether they were or it was whether my imagination, because I was in such a buzz. It was ridiculous. It was just amazing. Probably one of the best. It's always one of the best. I always say it's harder to lose a semi-final than a final, but it's also harder to win one as well. Just the mentality of a semi-final and the emotional thoughts you have to go through, an emotional process you have to go through to win a semi-final it's a lot harder. Once you're in the final, it's a lottery game, isn't it? It's one-off. There's a lot to play for, but all form, all history, all goes out the window. Whereas semi-finals, you can kind of look into it a little bit more.
So you finish that game, you come back, you've now got the final. I mean, what was the build-up like for Layne Eadie and family leading up to that?
Yeah, I think the semi-final was on a Wednesday, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
It was on a Wednesday, so I do believe. I think we trained on the Thursday night or the Friday night, one of the two. I know we trained in between. It might have even been the Saturday morning, actually. Either way, we trained in the middle, and it was just sort of a lighter session. It was let's concentrate on this now. This is what we've got to do. This is how. We never, throughout the whole season, throughout the whole time I was there, I think we only worried about an opposition in terms of preparing for what they do. I think we only done it once. And I think that was when we played Cray in the semi-final of the last year, of the promotion year, sorry. Just because of the way they played football. It was completely different to the way we played, and the way they set up was completely different to the way we set up. So we kind of had to. And there was obviously a little bit more importance because it was a semi-final, but we never ever worried about anyone else unless they had, I don't know, a 7'5" centre half who could head the ball 500 yards, and people got told to man mark him. It was always right. What do we do? How do we win this game? Rather than how do we stop them winning? So it was a lighter session. It was very light, very very light-hearted. I think it was only there sort of an hour. It was just to show our face more than anything and just to sort of rub any cobwebs out. But for myself, I never change. I'm very superstitious when it comes to match days and building up to stuff. So the night before, I do the same thing as I've always done. I still do it now. The morning, I eat the same food. I drink the same amount of fluid. I leave at the same time in terms of the time frame before meet. Get all my clothes prepared before, my bag prepared before, all in the same way. I've never changed. So it was just like a normal match day for me. It weren't. I think the only thing that was different was about 40 degrees outside. I think that was the only difference for me.
So you get to the game. Of course, now we're in a completely different situation. The semi-final, as I said to the other guys, three defeats. You're going to play Whittam, who are second. Just basically only beat Needham Market. I think it was by the odd goal on the Wednesday night. We go there. We've beaten them twice in the league. Yeah. And then we turn up and probably the worst pitch I've ever seen in my life to start with. Complete dust bowl. But what was that like the journey there? The dressing room, because Danny said the dressing room didn't feel right.
No, there was it wasn't complacent. It wasn't anything like that. I think we knew we had a job to do, and I can't remember if it was that season or the season that Whittam got relegated, because they went up obviously, and they come back down the year after. So I can't remember if it was the year we got promoted or it was the year we played them in the final where we beat them like 5-2 or something, literally like 3 weeks before the end of the season. And I always remember that in that dressing room on the final, almost as if we thought we'd won without even putting our kit on, and that's always a mistake. You always have the air of confidence that you can win, but there's a difference between thinking you can and knowing kind of thing. And I think there's and I've apologised to Danny on many a times for my performance on that day. It was horrendous, but I don't think anyone really had a good game. I think, to be honest, that's probably the worst game I think I've ever been involved in, emotionally and in terms of my own performance and a team performance. It was almost as if how we turned up to Haybridge was how Whittam turned up to us, or how Haybridge turned up to their home game is how we turned up to the Whittam away game. It's a complete contrast. I think it was such a high, physically and emotionally, getting past Haybridge. It almost knocks the stuffing out of you a little bit as well.
I mean, the only bits I remember about that game was one, Tim Saul, who's now the CEO over at Harlow, that was his first game. And I remember that one of their fans chucking a can of Coke at me and him and my daughter during the game. I also remember when one of the fans was spraying water on their physio. But the other thing that's always stuck in my mind from that game was how distraught you was at the end of that game. It always sort of sticks in my mind of just seeing you as a young lad then, standing in the pitch and being completely distraught. I mean, did it take some time for you? And I've asked the others this. Did it take some time for you to get over that, to go then bounce back and think, well, I'm going back to play for Harlow next year. I'm going to put things right and go into the next season?
No, I'll be honest, no. Probably by the time I got back to the club, my head was screwed on again, and it was. Look, the disappointment stands with me today. I'll never be able to get back that day. In regards to how I performed, I feel like I let a lot of people down that day. But I'd also like to think I've gone a long way to repairing that, obviously. Yeah. I mean, like I said to you a minute ago, it's probably one of the worst footballing moments of my life, of my career. But, I mean, I always remember I walked down there, because they haven't really got a tunnel. It's just more of an open corridor, like an alleyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I walked down there, and Danny was standing halfway down, waiting for me. And I just remember looking at him. He looked at me, and I went, "Oh, mate, I'm so sorry." I just apologised to him straight away, and I just knew it's never going to change anything, because Danny loved me, and I'm grateful for that. But it was just a way of me letting it off my chest and getting it away, getting myself back to where I needed to be. I needed to say something to him, whereas if I just kind of let him put his arm around my shoulder and say, "Look, you're coming back next year, it's going to be all right," I probably would have, to be honest, I don't know what I would have done. It would have taken me a lot longer to repair the damage in my head.
I mean, is that what he said to you then when you apologised?
It was very much, don't worry, we all have bad days at the office. Obviously, in that scenario, to be honest, it didn't mean a lot to me because of what just happened. But looking back at it, he's completely right. You look at the highest level, World Cup finals, Champions League finals, FA Cup finals, even games to win leagues, playoff finals. Teams don't turn up a hell of a lot. So yeah, it was very much. And then we got into the dressing room, and it just echoed it again. He said, "Look, you're one of the best groups of lads I've worked with. I know that performance weren't personal, because you've worked so hard to get into this position. Sometimes it just doesn't work. It could be literally anything, and anything as minute as the night before you had a row with your missus, or the morning of you forgot to drink a litre of water. Anything. It could be literally anything. It could have been that they just maybe wanted it more than us. I mean, things like that happen. I don't know, but it certainly was one of the hardest days of my footballing life.
Do you think there was a more of a sort of real strong unity then between the players in the dressing room then to say, "Look, we've got to, come on lads, we've all got to come back next season and put this right"?
I'd love to say yes, but I also feel that we lost a lot of players that year, that summer. A lot of them moved on. I think the core that stayed for the next 4 or 5 years, including that season, were 100% that. Yeah, they would echo that 100%. It was very much, "No, we're putting this right. We're gonna we're going to get promoted next year. We're going to go win the league. And that's what Danny wanted ultimately, and we all believed that. And even when we signed, it was I remember him asking me, "Have you ever won a league?" And I said, "Yeah, no, I won one with St Neots." He said, "What was that like?" And I said, "Well, probably one of the best feelings you ever have to win a league. It's relief, it's emotion, it's unbelievably overwhelming, the feeling you get when you win a league." And he said, "Well, you're going to do that this season with us, and I'm going to let you do that. I'm going to put a team together with yourself to do that." And that admiration, that love from Danny, I don't think I'll ever have to give back to him unless I can play for him again. But which is probably why I stayed at Harlow for so long. I mean, I'm not one of these people that jump ship every 6 months or every year or I love to stay where I am, and if I'm happy where I am, I'll stay there for ages. But I just remember that conversation in the summer between the Whittam game and the following season. It was so poignant in my career, in my Harlow life as well.
So we went on to that. You'll come back for the following season, and probably I've said it a couple of times, I think, already on these shows. I remember this season more than the season when we won the league, won the playoffs, should I say. I just think it was one of the most outstanding squad performances from start to finish.
Was that the season that we had 13, 14 wins on the bounce? Was it that season?
Yeah, and we had 100 points, 100 goals. Yeah. I mean, what's your memories of that? I mean, did you guys sort of like, I don't know, I think Junior said to me, no chance. He said, but was it one of those sort of things where you were looking at your phones when you came in the dressing room and that sort of stuff to see what Needham had done, or were you just concentrating on yourselves and just going from game to game?
I honestly think it's person to person. I was always one. As soon as we won a game, as soon as we lost a game, as soon as we drew a game, I would always look at the league, see who done what, see who would beat who where we sit. That's just me. Some people who, it's not being less invested. It's not like you care any less. It's just the way of probably keeping your feet on the ground more than anything, and being able to sort of wipe what you've just done in terms of the game you've just played out of your head. Whereas I preferred to do that. And so, yeah, I would always look at what Needham were doing. I knew they would be our closest competitors that season. I knew they would. I mean, it was pretty clear probably after the first 6 weeks of the season that us two would run away with it. I think we were about 4 or 5 points clear of everyone else after about 10 games. So it says a lot.
So, I mean, with that season going through, and I mean, Ross reminded me, I mean, because we had a good cup run as well. I think it was that season, we had a good cup run that we got through to the last qualifying round of the FA Cup, or somewhere around that sort of time anyway.
I think we went to Braintree, didn't we?
Yeah, we went. So, I mean, that sort of thing is when you're in the FA Cup run like that, I mean, what's that like? I mean, from round to round, you're moving on and you're winning and you're getting closer and closer and closer. And, of course, if we'd have won that Braintree game, we would have been at home to Oxford United in the first round.
It's a nice distraction, but I also feel it can be a hindrance. I love the FA Cup, and I'd love to play in the first. I've never played in the first round. I'd love to do that. It would be a dream as a footballer to be able to do that. But I also feel like in non-league it doesn't help. There's too many qualification games. There's too many. Look, I mean, if you draw, you have to go away on a Tuesday, the next Tuesday, and normally at the start of the season, you've got a Tuesday night midweek game in league, so that obviously gets put back, and then they don't. I just don't think they plan it very well. I think certainly for the qualification games, I would scrap all replays. I would probably plan it a little bit better, so that maybe the first, because I think it's only the first 2 FA Cup qualifying games. After, obviously, because you have the Premier League qualifying and then you go into qualifying. So I think the first 2 qualifying games are actually set Saturdays, in terms of there's no league fixtures on them days. Whereas if you get past them 2, which, I mean, most non-league clubs do, because there's only been 2 games, so it doesn't help them at all. It just builds up fixture congestion, and then obviously bad pitches do that again in December, January, February, and by the time you get to March and April, you're playing 3 games a week, and it doesn't help, I don't think. But that's why we play football at the end of the day, because you get all these games in. But it depends how you look at it. If your ambition is to win a league, I think that's probably what you've got to do in terms of that's your main target. I don't think you can set a goal to say let's win a league and get to the first round of the FA Cup. I just don't think that's achievable for most, unless you've got a budget of Billericay, for example, where they can pay 35 grand a month or whatever it was turned out to be in the end when they got promoted. And I think that's the only way you can juggle it, when you've got 18 players that know they're going to play and know they're on a very good wage and can afford to just sort of coast, if you like.
So we had the cup run, of course. We ended up going out to Braintree as well. I think we had a season, another great season in another cup competition, of course, in the trophy. And we had the likes of Eastleigh at home, and and you got a big side like Eastleigh with a big manager like Martin Allen coming down as well. He just sort of taken them over as well. I mean, that must have been a great day to have, even if you've got some kind of almost like a celebrity manager almost coming.
I'm probably going to sound pretty hypocritical here. I love that. That cup run was fantastic. I mean, to have, I can't remember how many was at the Eastleigh game, maybe 1,000, 1,200, something like that, and then to play York at home with a similar crowd, and that's what you play football for. You want to play in front of big crowds. You want to play where the atmosphere is rocking, and I almost feel that when Harlow was rocking, no one wanted to play us, regardless of who you were, where you come from, ex-pros. That you play in your surroundings. You play to your level, the surroundings that you've got. If you play with better players, you're going to play better. If you drop down the level or whatever, you play at that standard, if you like. Obviously, you can, to an element, bring people up to your level, but there's a reason why we're at that level and why they're at that level. But I think certainly one thing to balance it out is fan interaction, and Harlow was known for it. I used to speak to friends that played for other teams, and when they come to us, it was very much, oh, your fans are good. Like they're even if I didn't know them, the opposition, the geezer I was playing against, would say, bloody hell, your fans don't shut up, do they? Like, nope. Nope. Uh-huh. Well, I mean, and I tell you what, if you kick the ball out of play, they'll hammer you. I loved it. I loved the supporters. They were fantastic.
But we had that game in that run. Of course, we played Bath. And again, I've asked this question because he's such a commanding player. You had your Danny Brown in that year. Then, of course, you had another centre half coming in Sonko, another one with probably more experience than Danny Brown. He's in the middle of defence. He goes up for a header early doors, cracks his head open, and gets taken off the pitch. I mean, what's your feelings then? You're playing against a team that's sort of 3 or 4 divisions above you. Your main centre half, the most experienced player in the whole squad, is now being taken off and being stitched up and not going to be back for the game. I mean, what's the feelings of a player then? Is it a case of, well, come on, we can still do this, or are you still then feeling to yourself, this could be a bit hard now?
Look, Sonko, I have no endless praise for what Sonko done for me and what he done for that season, the season after. However, I just think you get wrapped up in the game. Look, there's always going to be an air of disappointment when you're 6'5" centre half who's an absolute unit, who's not scared of anything, who commands everything, who is just a leader. He's a winner and a leader. But also, I think it was Sam West who stepped in at the time, who come off the bench for him. And I just remember him being immense. That since after when Sonko went off, he was just carried on what Sonko was doing before because I think their striker was about Sonko's size and height as well, weren't he? So, but he just controlled him as well. And I honestly thought we could have beat them at our place, but then to go down to them on a Tuesday night and do it on their own patches, and just the scenes after the game. And
I've still got the video on my phone. Because I was kit mad at the time, so I got all that on my phone. But What was that whole day like going down there? Because you'll see in the Junior Dadson one that I've done with Junior Dadson around him, that he tells the story of the day that he was late with his car and etc. etc. etc.
Yeah, a funny story.
Yeah.
I actually pulled a sickie on work because I couldn't get it off. So I went into work in the morning, and I was like, I can't miss this game. I told Chapo I can't book it off, but I'm doing my best on the day to get down with you. Went into work in the morning, and I must have got to about 10 or 11. I just thought, I just threw the sickie in. And luckily they brought it. I left, I met the coach, got down there. I always remember my dad coming down after work. He finished work and drove down to meet me so we could get back earlier. So I had to get up early the next day. I had a meeting. I can't remember where it was. I can't remember. Anyway, I had to get up early the next morning, so I couldn't be sitting around for the coach and then meet in my car and whatever. But yeah, we stopped in Bath City Centre for lunch at about 4, I think, or early dinner at about 4. Had a little stroll. Always remember getting lost down an alleyway. Can't remember who was leading the party. He took us down an alleyway, and there was a shut gate at the end of it, and it almost looked like a residence sort of footpath, if you like. Literally must have walked about 100 yards rather than sort of for half an hour because we got lost. It was like a bit like a Benny Hill sketch, really. It was just so anything that could be put into a comedy sketch and sort of come out successful probably happened that day. Certainly for myself, it was again it was a highlight of my Harlow life.
A cracking result as well.
Oh, massive. Was it 3-1 in the end?
Exactly, wasn't it? I can't even remember.
Yeah. I think we were 2-1 up, and I just remember it was almost like a monsoon. They just kept coming at us, and we was going uphill at the time, second half, weren't we? And yeah, it was just like a tidal wave them coming at us. It was, just kept coming, and then I can't remember who scored. Was it Reedy come on and scored the last goal? I can't remember who. Or was it Lewis Perkins?
Yeah, Perkins, I think, wasn't it? Lewis, yeah.
Yeah, it was Lou that come on and scored the last goal, and it just erupted after that. The scene in the dressing room after was
immense. It was good.
I think it was in there for about half hour.
Yeah,
that's it. My dad's going, come on. I said, no, we're celebrating. Give me a minute. I might as well just got back on the coach.
So is your dad, I mean, when you used to travel to away games and stuff, if you weren't on a coach with the boys, was it a thing, did you go with your dad? Because your dad's been a big supporter of your career all
massive,
hasn't he?
All my family, even my wife, she doesn't claim to love football, but she loves that I love it, and my whole family are into, like, mum, dad, nan and granddad, the uncles. They're all mad football people. Sometimes it was awkward for me to get onto the coach because it would almost me driving to Harlow and then coming past my house to get to the ground. So my parents would take me. If it was coming from work, they'd pick me up from work. Don't ask me why, because I could drive at the time. It was just something they'd done as dedication to sort of myself and the love that they had for football as well, and they invested just as much as I did into Harlow.
So what's that 100-point, 100-goal season? Have you got sort of memories of that season that sort of stick in your head before we get to the sort of the semi-final? Was there stuff in that?
Honestly, no. Probably the game that sticks out is the penultimate one against Needham Market.
Do you wish you'd have had the Craig Pope chance at the very end?
Look, I think if it happens 2 weeks earlier, I think he scores it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd put my hat on it. I put my house on it that I'd score. But probably Popey would as well.
Yeah.
So you just don't know. I just think it was it's a massive what if moment. I think we were 2-0 down at half time, and we sat in the dressing room and it just felt like Whittam all over again. Nothing was clicking. We were passing 10-yard balls off the pitch and shots going miles over the bar, and it just felt, it was hot. Pitch was dusty. It just felt like Whittam all over again. And we sat in the dressing room, and I don't even think Danny said a lot. I think he just said, "Who remembers last year? Whittam, the final." And obviously a few of us popped up and like, yeah. It was like, don't do that again. That's all. I think that's all he said. I think that was pretty much his team talk. And obviously we end up drawing the game 2-2, and we could have won the game quite easily. But still, it just, like I said, it's just a what if game. You look back on it and go, well, if we performed how we did in the second half, in the first half, we probably would have rolled them over quite comfortably and probably would have won the league. But then you obviously go into, did we play Thamesmead in the last game of the season?
Yeah, we were 1-0 up and they were drawing. We were up at that stage. Yeah.
Yeah, and you almost, obviously, as a player at that time, you do listen. People shout. I don't know. I think there was a song after about 5 minutes going, "We're going up, or Championes or whatever it was." And then after about, I don't know, it must have been another 20 minutes, Needham obviously gone in front, and you get we're going to be in the playoffs kind of chats. Don't worry about it. And then next thing you know, you're playing Thurrock in a semi-final. And
what was the build up to that? Because for me, that was probably. I know you said, Witter was one of your darkest days. For me, and I've never played football at that level at all, but that for me was probably the darkest day, full stop, that I've ever known in football, that day against Thurrock.
It rivals it. It does rival it. I think because we actually played okay. It's going to sound really silly now, but we just couldn't defend. It was literally probably as simple as that. I don't think they had many chances. I think when we scored, they scored from memory.
Scored after every kickoff, I think.
Every
kickoff, yeah.
It was just an up and down game. I think were we even in front at one point as well? And
not sure if I can't remember. I'll try to blank it out of my memory if I'm honest.
Yeah. I always remember the build-up being quite a lot more intense than the year before, in the sense of the pressure and the fans, and even us as a group of players were more. I wouldn't say we were more focused. We were just as focused, but we knew there was a lot more ride on it because of our baggage, if you like. It was just a weird game. It was. It was a different type of Whittam feeling, because like I said, I don't think we actually played terribly. It was just probably it was 5 mistakes at the end of the day, and if you make 5 mistakes in a game, it's gonna cost you, isn't it? Let's be honest.
And then of course they had the same situation as we did the year before. They went to the thing and got absolutely annihilated in the final.
And they lose like 7-0 or something.
Stupid. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But so you've had that situation from Danny, from the Whittam into the Needham sort of season. Now all of a sudden you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, we've got to go for it all again. What's the feeling of the players, the hardcore players then? Because all of a sudden now you're going to season 3 and you're good enough to play in the division above, but you're still in that one below.
Yeah, so the off season, Danny phoned me about a week later and was like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm about to go on holiday. I'll make up my mind when I come back. Let me just chill for a bit. Let me just recharge, and then I'll see what I want to do. So I didn't give any. And when we lost the Thurrock game, I don't think I told my family this. I honestly thought after that Thurrock game that was probably my last chance in a Harlow shirt. Not because I didn't want to be there, not because no one wanted me there, but I had ambitions to play higher. I had ambitions to hopefully be professional. And I felt like that was the right chance, because I was coming off the back of a season where I performed consistently really well, probably for the first time. Typically, when I was younger, I would perform really well for 6 months, have a month off, my dad used to say, when I weren't there, and then have 6 months back on, kind of, or for whatever the rest of the season was, back on. But that season was probably the first season where I was a 7 or 8 every single week. I had maybe 1 or 2 5s and 4s, and 1 or 2 10s, if you like, but probably 90% I was extremely consistent. So I felt like that could have been the right time to manage my options, if you like. But I didn't jump into anything. Everyone I spoke to that off season, I said, look, I'm going away here. Speak to me, or I will give you a call back here to discuss what's going on. And and I can't remember who said it to me. I think we went to Tunisia, maybe, or did we go to Turkey? Either way, we went somewhere very, very hot, and I went on a day excursion thing, and one of my mates that I was with said, "Oh, what are you doing next year? You're staying at Harlow?" And I was like, "Well, honestly, I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea. They want me back. They'd love to have me back, but I don't know what I want to do." He said, "Surely you've got to give it one more go. You've lost the final and a semi-final. Surely it's your time this year." And that hit home in many reasons. I was like, I can't just leave there. Surely not. Like I've got to finish what I've started. I owe it to myself, to the fans, to my family, to my teammates, probably more than anyone else, to at least have one more go at it. And at least, do you know what? I've invested in this for 24 months. Like I've played nearly, probably at that point, 150 games for the club. I've got to give it one more shot. And that I think I even phoned Danny that night when I was on holiday. Said, I ain't going anywhere, mate. I'm signing. And that's when he said, "Well, I want you to sign a contract." And I was like, "Well, I don't know how I feel about that, because obviously it ties me in. Someone has to buy me and whatever." And then I just thought, no, I don't really care. I want to be here for the season. I want to get promoted to Harlow. So what's the point? What's the point of turning down a contract when it's only for a year? It didn't make any sense to me when I knew I was going to be at Harlow for a year, and at least another year. So I just signed it, and I said, "Yeah, no, let's go. I'm invested." I think probably everyone thought the same and had the same process. Or what's going on? What can I do? Is this time to move on? Because we've been beat twice in important games, and yeah, I definitely made the right decision to stay.
So that season, I'll be honest, and the reason I always say the 100-point season because I can remember games from there. I can remember the away game against Needham. I can remember the home game against Needham when Daniel Matasuka was on loan from Southend and he came in.
Yeah.
Their centre forward in his pocket, and so I can remember certain stuff of that. But when we jump into that promotion season, I can honestly say to you, I really can't remember too much about that promotion season. I think it was such a season where you were sort of like going along with what was going on, and you're so nervous week in, week out, and all the rest of it. And you can only remember sort of like the semi-final, little bits of that, and the final. I mean, you looking back on it now, is there stuff that you can remember that you thought this is a year during that season?
No, honestly, I a bit like you, I can't remember. It's all a bit of a blur because we got promoted. I think. I remember us being the favourites. I remember us being relatively consistent as well with our wins. I think most of the season maybe we lost 1 at home, 2 at home, maybe. And just on that point, I think that was what clinched it, certainly for me mentally, was when we beat Cray at home, and I hadn't seen the result of, I think that was Thurrock Hornchurch, wasn't it, in the other semi-final?
I think so, yeah.
And I remember thinking, because I think we finished 3rd and Thurrock finished 2nd, and I always remember thinking that if Thurrock win, I think it's going to be another year of maybes or nearlies. But I also, at the same point, thought that if we were at home, we're going to go up. Like, no one wants to come to Harlow. No one wants to play us on our own patch. We know what to do. We know what we can do at home. We're going to get an extra 500 people through the door that are supporting us because we're at home. I just thought the home tie, the home favourite, it just made more. It just, like I said, I think that was half the reason why we got promoted. Not saying that we wouldn't if we went to Thurrock, but you obviously want to do it in front of your own fans as well, don't you?
So what was that semi-final like then? So you got a semi-final going up against Tony Russell, always a really good manager, always has really good sides. I mean, some of the others have said to me they weren't confident going into it because of that. They were very nervous. They was expecting possibly the worst. A couple of the fans that I spoke to. So I mean, what was the feeling in the dressing? Was it different to the last 2 semi-finals?
Massively. We were the underdogs for a start. I don't think anyone backed us. Whereas you could probably argue the Haybridge, no one backed us there, but maybe the other sort of 2 games, people thought that we would win. I always remember because their right midfielder I played with at St Albans, so I knew him really well. and I knew if I got into his head, or if we got into his head, he'd get sent off. There's no two ways about it. He's always been like that, and I think he still is now. Like he's one of them people that's probably one of the nicest people you meet off the pitch, but he can lose his head so quickly on it. And yeah, I think I always remember seeing him lining up like on my side, and I just said to him, "You're going to get sent off today." Like, there's no two ways about it, because Spenny was in his ear, Chapo was in his ear. To be fair, everyone that come near him just had that little. They weren't anything malicious or anything personal. It was just more like prima donna shouts and what like that. That was rubbish kind of stuff, and I think it just got to him. I can't remember how he got sent. I think he booted someone in the end, and after about 30 minutes, and after that, then I was a bit more confident, certainly, because they were a good side. They were a very good side.
So we get through. I mean, the dressing room must have been pumped skin down. It got a final, and it was going to be at home as well. You know, against Church.
Do you know what? After that semi-final, I think because this was sort of the third time round, I don't actually think it was almost like we won another game. We'd half done the job now. The start of the season, we planned to get promoted. That was the game, do it by hook or by crook. Whereas the previous two seasons, when we got into the playoffs, or when we cemented our place in the playoffs the season before, it was a bit more of a celebration. And then when we beat Haybridge the year before, it was mental, because we obviously, for all the reasons that we just discussed. But that year it was very subdued. It was very, well done, we won another game of football. We were still very focused. We knew we got a job to do. Don't get me wrong, we were buzzing that we just beat Cray 3-0 at home, and we got home side in the final. But like I said, our job was only half done.
So going into that day, can you remember that day going into the Hall Church game? Was it anything different?
Yeah, I think it was the first time that I've woken up for a football match with butterflies. I've never been one for real nervousness or excitement, but that day was very. It was just different. It was weird. It was warm. It was hot. I literally had people on the day asking me, family members, in-laws asking me for tickets. Can you still have to get me tickets, etc., etc. I was like, I can only get X amount for mum and dad, and my wife, and yeah, it was just a completely different kettle of fish that day. I arrived to the ground. All the flags were up. There was probably, when I arrived, 100, 200 people, Harlow fans, already there. Buddha was banging his drum already at the top bar. We were still in our suits, and they were singing songs already. We were like, this is ridiculous. We was on the pitch, and they were singing at us. It was just mental. The whole day, went into the change room, obviously got changed, come out for the warm up, and it tripled the attendance already. And it was like an hour and a half before, well, it was probably an hour before kickoff. It was just a buzz. It was ridiculous. And then obviously as you're walking in, the ground is pretty much at capacity for that day. And you could just feel the air of excitement in the team, but just how focused we were as well. And I think we obviously scored first, but I think that settled us down a bit as well. Well, quite a lot, obviously it would, but it also knocked a little bit out of them. And when we were able to get on top a little bit more, and then I think we went 2-0 up as well, didn't we? I think, and then they got a penalty. I can't remember who made the foul, but then it got a little bit twitchy, and I think it was 2-1 at half time, wasn't it?
I mean, a certain thunderbolt came from out of nowhere.
Yeah, I just remember I could read where the pass was going, and I knew that he weren't going to get there in terms of the player that I was marking, and I could step in front of him. And then, so I've picked the ball up, I touched it, controlled it, took a touch out my feet, and then I think I even took another one to set myself, and I was actually going to pass it. And then something in my brain thought, just shoot. Like, you're not that far out. Like, just shoot. Right. And I just did. Obviously, like I said to you earlier, one of the most important things I've probably ever done in football, personally and for the club. But yeah, it's one of them things. It's a lottery. You don't buy the ticket, you don't score, do you? So, I'm glad I did.
Like, and the name of the minute is Bugger. I can't think of the goal kick was for Hornchurch, but we did interview him on my Monday night show, And
Yeah.
he laughed and said he was injured and he would have got to it if he weren't for his injury.
that old chestnut. It's always the keepers are always the same way. The fact is that he was. If he was injured, it still went in the top corner. So
absolutely,
and we still got promoted. And I just, for some reason, that goal and the Bury goal, I don't know whether it was they were very similar in terms of the way I intercepted a pass, I ran onto it, I took a couple of touches, and I just decided just to hit it. I don't think if I scored the Bury goal, if that didn't go in, I don't think I shoot in the final.
Yeah,
I think that kind of changed the mentality, and sort of allowed my confidence to say, no, you can score here. Go on.
So what's the you win the match, you're going out there, you're getting all your presentation done of it. What was that dressing room like with somebody like Joe in that dressing room?
He was a character. That's all I can. He's a lovely man, but my word, he must be hard work. Jesus Christ, he must be hard. He's full on all the time. But I always remember, actually, before we got back to the dressing room, before the presentation, if you like, I always remember we had a little walk around the pitch. So we all had a sort of a self-celebration, if you like, together as a team on the pitch, and then we all went over to where the Harlow fans were. And I always remember me and Mazza, there must have been about a 20-foot flag that you guys were waving, and I always remember me and Mazza not nicking it, but taking it off of him and running up and down the pitch for about 5 minutes with it. And then the next thing you know, we're all sort of jumping up and down in front of you lot, and I just see Buddha trying. I don't know whether he was trying to get over or he was losing his balance or what on the hoardings. I just went over and pulled him over. I was like, "Come here," right? And I nicked his scarf, and I think I ran off with his scarf for about an hour. And then we walked around, and I just see, quite poignant to me. I see my mum, my dad, and my girlfriend, my wife at the time, sat all looking at me, but they all looked really, really emotional, like they'd been through my pain. Of the last couple of seasons, and I just remember sort of pushing my way through everyone, climbing up there and hugging them, and then it was just pure elation the rest of that afternoon.
So you went and done a packed cash?
Yeah, I went up and hugged them all, and family friends were there, and even a couple of work colleagues were there, and the team I helped coach at the time were there. I must have had about 60 people there in the end. It was in-laws were there, all my other half's nan and granddad. It was mental.
But so that day goes. You're now into the Premier. I mean, how long was you in? Did you play the whole season that season for Harlow? Or was it that?
Yeah, I played the whole season. It was very much like, whereas the season before, in the off season, I didn't know what to do. Now we got promoted. I thought, okay, all right, now I'm kind of where I want to be in terms of the higher division, higher level, higher standard. Let's see how I get on. I love Harlow. I don't particularly want to go anywhere. I'm happy. Let's give it another shot. So I did. Played the whole season in the end, and then I decided to move on at the end of that season.
So how did that come back? It was off to St Albans, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I think it got to March or April, and Chapo pulled me in and said, "Your current contract's running out. What do you do?" And I think we were maybe 8th or 9th at the time, and I was 23, 24 maybe. And I was just honest with him, as I have been the whole my time I was there. I just kind of said, I want to play in the Conference South. I want to play in the conference if I can. I want to play in the league if I can. Look, if we get to the playoffs and we go up, I'm going to stay. But I want to try myself in the conference. And by that time, I'd already had a phone call from the St Albans manager expressing interest. There was no offer. There was no commitment at all. It was more of a informative chat of what are your plans? And it was very much, I have no idea. Yeah, Ian Allinson was the gaffer. Strangely enough, I actually went to school with their club secretary at the time. So it was kind of like They might have been keeping. Well, they must have been, because they phoned me. They would keep an eye for me from afar. But yeah, I felt like it was time at that point to try myself at the next level. Do I regret it? Probably a little bit, if I'm being completely honest. Sometimes you think the grass is greener. Probably wasn't. If I'm being, again, completely honest. I got sold a dream that didn't materialise. I got told that they'd play a 3-5-2 and I'd play the wing back, and I'm the only one, etc., etc. I literally played the first half of the season up till Christmas as a 3-5-2, and then he dropped me on Boxing Day, weren't even in the squad, and I think I played 2 games between then and the end of January. I scored, got MOM, got in the non-league paper team of the day, and then never played again, basically. And I just said, look, he reverted back to a 4-4-2 and basically played 4 centre halves at the back, and I just was like, okay, yeah, all right.
Did he actually explain to you though why?
No, he was. I really don't like talking bad of people when they're not there to defend themselves, but he weren't the most open and approachable person, if I put it in the most professional way. Didn't really see eye to eye with the philosophy he wanted to play. I'm very much of a sort of the way we discussed earlier. If it's there to be passed, pass it. If it's there to be volleyed as far as you can away from your goal, they ain't going to score. Old school mixed with sort of 21st century soccer, if you like. Whereas he, to be honest, I don't think he has a philosophy. I think he just kind of doesn't wing it. He knows what he's doing because he's been around the block a hell of a lot, and I respect him for that. But he kind of changed it game in, game out, and it just weren't working for me. It didn't work at all.
So now, as you said before we started, Hitchin?
Yeah, at Hitchin now. Well, I was there last year.
Mm-hmm. So, I suppose one of the final questions is, what chances is there of us seeing, the best left back the club's ever had, coming back to play for Harlow Town in the future?
I will, like I said to you earlier, I'll never ever say never. The club has got a special place for me. Sounds like I've got a special place for them, which I would never ever be able to repay. I would love to go back to Harlow. I would. It would have to be right for everyone. Obviously, I wouldn't just say yes because it's Harlow. Like with any club, I wouldn't just say yes because it's another club. It would have to be right with work. It would have to be right with my family, my daughter. But I would love to. I honestly would. It would. Whether that's next season, whether that's 2 seasons, whether that's 5 years down the line, I will play for Harlow at some point again. But I say will. I would like to. You can never. It's opinions, isn't it? You can never know who's in charge and etc. So
all I will say is, if it was down to me, if it was down to the fans, you'd be back there tomorrow.
I appreciate it.
Everybody in the club has got a soft spot for you. In fact, more, the people you hear names, of course, Reedy, of course, Fabs, Jared, and yourself. These are the names that everybody wants to see back in a Harlow shirt. For next year, whether that's going to happen, who knows? And hopefully it will. But we just But
who knows? Like I say, I'd love to. I love the fans. I love the club. I love the people there. My fondest memories of football so far have been at Harlow, easily, by far. So I would always entertain a conversation.
I'll send Tom this video and I'll
just give him the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, could you please give him a bell? Yeah, I said yours, I said Julia's, and we'll be all right. But,
there you go.
We wish you and your family all the best. Hopefully you keep well, with the remains of this COVID-19, and of course now you can start enjoying the Premier League again, because that's back tonight.
Yes.
A massive thank you to you, and of course time away from your wife and your family this afternoon. So I really appreciate that. And
no, not a problem.
And hopefully we see you in a Harlow shirt very soon. But hopefully everybody's enjoyed listening to Layne. I certainly have. It's probably been one of the highlights of the shows that we've done so far. Coming up, of course, we've got Scott Alderman. We've also got Marvin Samuel and Darren Blewett in the coming weeks as well. So join us for them. Until next time, good night.